Hi, I'm Chris Lewis, firefighter for the Lakeville Fire Department. Welcome to another edition of On Call. The goal of this program is to educate and inform citizens of Lakeville about how Lakeville's all-volunteer fire department trains and responds to emergencies. Let's take a look at what's coming up on this edition of On Call. We start things off with a hidden danger in your home and what you can do to prevent a fire. Fire Chief Mike Meyer will inform us on a new program LFD is using and how it will help the department. We answer another viewer's question in Ask the Firefighter. I will have all the latest news happenings around the fire department, and we'll wrap things up with Scratch the Fire Dog as he explores some tools firefighters use. Today we're going to look at a hidden danger that involves an appliance in many of our houses that most of us use every day. Clothes dryer fires account for over 15,000 structure fires, 15 deaths, and 400 injuries annually. 80% of clothes dryer fires in structures occur in residential buildings. Failure to clean is the leading factor contributing to clothes dryer fires in residential buildings. New home construction trends place clothes dryers and washing machines in more hazardous locations, away from outside walls such as bedrooms, second floor hallways, bathrooms, and kitchens. With us today is Jeff Perrett from Air Supply Technologies. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
What can you tell us is the main reason behind dryer fires?
The main reason is your dryer vents that, depending on the length of the pipe, they plug up with lint, which backs up the airflow, which blows air into your dryer and looks for little crevices to blow that lint. Eventually that lint finds the ignition source and starts your dryers on fire. Okay, so if we have lint buildups and stuff like that, that's got to be in the piping from the dryer to the outside, yep,
right?
Yep, and there's different kinds of piping.
Okay, so we've got a couple of different examples here of piping. What are we looking at here? What do we have?
This here is a plastic flexible piping. I see this quite a bit in people's houses. It's not code. It's a petroleum product, so it can start on fire. And inside the pipe here, it's all rigid. So your air is making turbulent and your lint catches on these ridges in here and makes it really hard to clean out even.
Okay.
And a lot of that. So this is not code. This is not recommended. If you have this in there, get rid of it. Take it out, put something else in. Either put this type of elbow in, or you can use this here flex aluminum pipe. This stretches out and it bends back and forth, so you can make like a S-curve on there if you want.
Okay.
It also has ridges in here too, which can catch the lint on the inside, and it makes the air turbulent as it's going through, so it cuts down the airflow.
Okay.
I see this quite a bit in houses when the hole in the wall does not match up with the dryer, so they try to use this flexible stuff and to get it to hook up. If you can use an elbow, 90-degree elbow, which is adjustable, behind the dryer into the wall, this would be the best. You got a smooth surface, lint does not catch on this that easy, and then you got the long aluminum piping, 4-inch piping is what you want to use out of the dryers. And when you hook this up, you want to make sure you hook it up the right way from the male into the female, so that the lint, this would be on the dryer side, because you don't want the lint to catch on these edges. You put it in backwards the other way, which I see that once in a while. So then we have to repipe the whole thing.
Okay, so going back here, do you see this stuff a lot in like residentials, commercials? Or somewhere more common or not? Or
I do see this once in a while, and it does not work good. It's very dangerous, and it's not code. So when you have this, this will dry out and crack, and I see it where it's brown, where it's been burnt.
Okay.
Over a period of time.
And then this is flammable too, correct?
And this is flammable. This is not code in any city, so do not use this. If you have it, get rid of it as soon as possible.
Okay, but this stuff is code.
This stuff is all code here. Yep, this is stuff you can use. It's just now you want to push that moisture and whatever lint makes it through the lint trap outside of the pipe, so it doesn't back up on you. So this here makes a little bit of turbulent airflow. This here works the best along with the rigid pipe. Any rigid pipe should work great.
So that's what you want.
But in some places, you have to use this. I mean, it's this.
But this is the ideal, right?
This is the ideal setup. Yep.
Okay. So once we're got our piping and everything fitted or set in our house, and we got to go outside where the vents are.
You got to go outside.
Yep. What do we want to know about being outside? You know, different hazards, different maintenance, or stuff like that we need to think about.
A lot of times I see this outside of your typical flapper vent like this here. and what it has is a flapper on there that you want it to close, especially in the wintertime, because if it's open, if it's plugged up with lift up in the hinges up here, you're going to get cold air in there.
Okay.
And that cold air is going to turn that moisture back into, that steam back into moisture, which can cause water problems in the ceiling. Also, this flapper, in the springtime, birds are looking for places to nest. They can get in here.
Okay.
They can make this flap come up and they hop in there and they build their nest, which will cut down your airflow. And one thing you can tell if you have birds in there is if you have bird poop down the siding of your house, because they poop right on the side there. So to keep them out, you can use something like this here. It's a little screen that you can use, and it pops right in there, and it'll keep the birds out. But it'll build up with lint, so you got to check this several times a year to make sure that it's clean. The cleaner this here is, the better your dryer will work. And if you don't have one on there now, you can go to Menards, Home Depot, and you can get one that'll fit right over, and it'll screw onto your siding.
Okay.
And that'll work very well.
All right, fantastic. So, and then do we have to worry? Say I'm gonna put some new piping in or anything like that. I know we have special tape here that we want to use as well, right?
When you put your pipes together, what you use is it's aluminum foil tape. You don't want to use duct tape. Duct tape dries out and your pipe will fall apart. You do not use screws on dryer vent pipe because your lint will catch on that and will restrict your airflow. So get a good quality aluminum tape, and you can't use too much.
Okay.
Put a good seal on there and make sure it's nice and flattened down, and that should work pretty well.
And that will work with this type of pipe.
That'll work with this also. You may want to even have to use like a hose clamp. That'll work on here.
Okay.
It'll work better.
All right, fantastic. So now we've got our fittings and our piping and everything all set up. What can you tell us about maintenance or cleaning it out, or what do we need to look at here?
If you got short runs that are 4 feet and you can see the pipe, you can attempt to clean it yourself. I've seen brushes like this here where you can pull your dryer out and run this through and get it somewhat clean, get it fairly clean. The longer runs that you have, especially in a basement that's finished off, if you're running this brush through this pipe, what can happen, you might move this pipe. If you move this pipe, it came disconnected somewhere.
Okay.
And now you got a finished basement. Now you got to make a hole in the ceiling to repair that. And you still have a dirty pipe that you have to do. So the longer the run, and it's through a finished ceiling, you might want to hire a professional to do it.
Okay.
We got ways that we can do it without running brushes through there. We use high air pressure and to get the lint out.
Jeff, are there like any signs or symptoms that your dryer vent might need to be cleaned out?
Yeah, if your dryer takes longer than, say, 1 cycle, that might be an indication that you might need the ductwork cleaned out. If your clothes come out damp and warm, but they're still not dry, that's the indication that your dryer's working fine, but the ductwork might need to be cleaned.
Okay. And then, and that's when you would either, I mean, would it be as simple as cleaning your lint trap? I mean, some people might not even.
You have a lint trap. Some people I go to, they don't even know they had a lint trap, and I look at it and it's like, oh my goodness. But yeah, you have a lint trap either on top and the back that you pull out, and clean it every load. If you clean it every load, it gives that airflow more chance to blow out lint that's in the pipe.
Okay.
And the ones in the door, just take it out, and you can look down in there and see if there's a buildup of lint down beyond the screen. And if you're handy, you can possibly take that off and vacuum that out.
All right, so it's just be something you can just stick your shop vac on there or a house vacuum on there, maybe get a little bit extra out of there. And...
Yep.
Okay.
The more you get out of it, the better it is. And then it's also like in townhouses and associations. Every association is different. Some people, the owner's responsible. Other places, the association and the management is responsible. So check with the management company and see who's liable for getting their dryer vents cleaned out.
All right, fantastic. Are there certain like guidelines for as often as you should clean them? Are there factors that might make your piping dirtier or more hazardous or what have you?
I have a lot of people ask me that, and there's so many variables. Depends how many people are in the house.
Okay.
Depends if you have pets. If you have pets, you get more of that hair into the pipe, which plugs it up more, and it depends on how long the run is. and it depends what kind of dryer you have. Each dryer has a different airflow that it kicks out, so the more airflow you got, the less you would have to do it.
Okay.
But there's a lot of variables on what kind of clothes you throw in the dryer. If it's new clothes, they give off a lot of lint, which is going to get past the screen trap and get caught in the pipe mark.
We've touched on a lot of different pipes. We've touched on cleaning and maintenance. I think we should go out, maybe try cleaning a house or two and taking a look and see what we can do, show people how that works.
Sounds like a good idea. Let's do it.
Perfect.
Hi.
Jeff, how are you?
Good.
Good. All right, so here we are at a residential house. What are we going to do here today?
We're going to go inside and look at the dryer, make sure it's hooked up properly.
Okay.
Look inside below the lint trap, make sure that's nice and clean, and probably get her cleaned out.
Just see how people can do it themselves.
See how people can do it themselves, yep. See, you know, if it's a short run, there should be no problem that they can do it themselves.
All right, perfect. Let's go take a look.
All right.
All right, Jeff, here we are inside, you know, kind of your standard residential house, and we have our washer and dryer, and we're going to look at kind of the fittings or the piping or whatever, and the lint traps. What are we going to look at here with these?
Looking at this here, it's insulation on a rigid pipe. This is a solid pipe here, which is perfect. This is a great insulation. It's short. This is something that a homeowner can clean them out himself.
Okay.
If he just wants to pull the dryer out and disconnect it, he can take the whole thing off both sides if he wants to run a brush through there and clean it and visually inspect, make sure that it's clean. Also, what you want to do is look at your lint screen here. On every load, you want to clean this out. Some people use fabric softeners, and what will happen is it'll all get gooked up on here with the fabric softener material.
Okay.
And what you need to do is run it under hot water with an old toothbrush or something and get that all cleaned out. And if it's gummy here, it's also going to be gummy in the pipe. So they need to be cleaned out more often.
All right.
And then you want to look down inside here, make sure that this looks very clean, very nice. That it's nice and clean, because a lot of times what will happen is your lint will sit on the bottom in here, and as it collects, a big chunk might run through the pipe and plug up the pipe. So you want to make sure that this stays nice and clean. You can vacuum it out. This here comes off fairly easy with like 3 screws.
Okay.
So if you're a little bit mechanical, you might be able to take this off and get your vacuum cleaner in and get it nice and cleaned out. But this dryer looks like it's been well maintained and taken care of.
Okay, and one more thing I wanted to look at with this pipe back here, this insulation on it, is that required? Is that code?
That's required. That's code. I believe it's the last 10 feet of piping needs to be insulated. This is only 4 feet, so, but whoever installed that did a very good job of installing that, and it looks nice and solid. It's not going to come off. And
okay, perfect.
They did a good job.
Fantastic.
So this is something that the homeowner can do.
Okay, all right, great. All right, Jeff, so here we are outside of a house right now, looking at a vent. What can you tell us about this one?
This vent's a lot longer than the last one that we looked at, so this one here is probably going to have to be done professionally because you got more elbows and the length is a lot longer. And we got minimal airflow on this here. So this one here will get cleaned out. Another thing that you want to do is make sure that it's nice, clean, and free of lint. Make sure that trap door can close on there. So when you get it all cleaned out, we'll go back and make sure that it's nice and got a flush closure on the door so that the cold air does not get back in.
All right, perfect. Well, I appreciate your time today, joining us, informing us about different factors that go into dryer ventilation and what we need to do to clean them out and help them prevent dryer fires.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Everybody, I'm Officer Don Nuts for the Lakeville Puppet Security, and I'm here today to talk to you about potholes. Hey, if you're driving around the city of Lakeville and you see these nasty potholes in the street, there's numbers that you can call to get those potholes fixed. You can call the City Street Department at 952-985-2711 and report that pothole. Or you can report it online at the city's website at www.lakevillemn.gov. Remember, pothole safety is in your and your car's best interest. Hey, that was pretty good. I think that'd work.
Hi, I'm Lakeville firefighter Melissa Schmidt from Station 3. Today's question is from Craig in Lakeville. Craig wants to know, does the Lakeville Fire Department train for ice rescues on area waterways? Craig, that's a great question, especially with the warm weather we've had this season. Every year, all Lakeville firefighters participate in ice rescue training. This involves either cutting a hole in the ice, or if it's warm enough, we'll use open water on an area lake. So we start off, we get into our what's called a Gumby suit or a Mustang suit. It's a waterproof suit. It protects us from the water and the cold. Somebody actually gets into the ice and pretends to be a victim. One of the firefighters straps a rescue rope around themselves so that they're always protected. We walk a certain distance where it's safe out to the water, and then when it gets to be thinner, we get down on our hands and knees and crawl. When it gets to be closer to the victim, we actually get down and roll, barrel roll. So we'll get behind the victim and tie the same rope that's around us around the victim as well with a carabiner, fasten it. And then when we're ready, we give the ready signal, which is usually a tap on the helmet, and the firefighters on shore pull the victim and the firefighter to safety. I hope this answers your question, Craig. Thanks for sending it in. If you have a question for Ask the Firefighter, send it in using the information on your screen.
Welcome to another edition of Chief's Corner, and I'm being joined today by Chad Weinstein from Ethical Leaders in Action. Thank you, Chad, for joining me.
Thank you, Chief. It's a pleasure.
Can you tell me a little bit about your organization, and we'll get a little bit later into what we're doing here with Lakeville Fire Department.
Absolutely. The firm is called Ethical Leaders in Action because that's really what we do. We create experiences that help ethical leaders to get better. Much of the training that goes into ethics in any sector, the public sector, the private sector, is really about avoiding wrongdoing. And while that's important, that really doesn't help good people get better, and it really doesn't prevent wrongdoing. Our approach instead is to take ethical principles and use them to push people to the positive side, to help people not just be acceptable, but to truly be their best, especially together in teams.
Okay. And what have we done as far as Lakeville Fire Department? I know this is we've been doing training together for a few months now, but how did we get to this point as far as the fire department goes? What did you do to prepare yourself and us as a department for the training that you're involved in with us?
Well, the Lakeville department is really a great example of the work that we do because, in fact, your department is basically healthy, strong, well-regarded in the community, and I'm not just saying that. Your goal in coming to us was to say, how can we get better? How can we invest in the leadership of the department today so that we have succession and a deep bench of leaders for the future? And how can we make sure that we continue to recruit excellent members of the community, we're able to train them to create an environment that brings out their best, and so forth? Our approach to doing that is to bring your officer corps together for a period of actually 4 months, and then to turn to work for a couple more months with the organization, the department as a whole. Rather than take people offline for a weekend, give them great stuff and send them on their way, we believe that keeping people engaged in their work and training with them over a period of time gives them an opportunity to really embrace change and to practice these ideas in their real lives. And so you should start to see some of these changes. In fact, in our next session, that's one of the questions I'm going to pose to the officers is, what's changed since we began working together?
Excellent.
My preparation, I have had the great fortune to work with the fire service for the last several years. My training and background is mostly in the business sector, but as I developed ethical leaders programs, fire chiefs approached me and said, "Do you work with our agencies?" And then it was chiefs like you that gave me an opportunity to partner. As you know, I had the opportunity to train with and observe your training and interview a bunch of your leaders at all levels, from brand new recruits to district chiefs and even to you. And to learn what makes this department special, and to learn your language, and to come to the training prepared to talk about real things rather than spend your people's valuable time bringing me up to speed.
Chad, you mentioned doing interviews with firefighters. What did you learn from doing those interviews with members of the department?
Well, my overall conclusion was that this is basically a very healthy department, and that's always good to hear, but it isn't as constructive as some of the specific points that I learned. For example, a number of newer firefighters said that they felt that there was a moment between when they were being trained to accomplish a task on the fire ground and when they were expected to be fully proficient at it that made them just a little bit uneasy. And for example, they could use a little more support and guidance the first few times they practiced a technique for real. That was news to us, I think.
Yep, and I guess the one thing that you and I have had the discussion about is fire departments spend a lot of time and effort training the firefighters to be effective at fire grounds, and even our leadership is effective at fire grounds, but we don't spend a lot of time for preparing them to deal with the administrative side, the personnel issues that we deal with as a department.
Oh, it's absolutely true. And in fact, preparing your leaders not just to be effective commanders and to just give directions, but to really motivate and bring out the best in your people so that you have lots of volunteers when it comes time to do fire education in the schools, or you have a really robust response to something that isn't as obviously engaging as a fire or a major incident. We want your people to be effective leaders that bring out the best in everyone day to day in the firehouse and not just on the fire ground.
What do we have in store for us for the future trainings?
Well, our next session is going to be very specific. In the last session, we talked about a series of communication skills that create common expectations for how to give direction, how to give feedback, how to listen effectively, both at the firehouse and on the fire ground. We're going to follow that up in this session by talking about how the officers of the department can lead firefighters effectively through periods of change, whether those are operational changes or changes in leadership or changes in organization. Having the skills to support and direct and cooperate and give people the tools they need to be successful through change is going to be one of our topics. Another of our topics